Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second of our Holy Week conversations as we explore the Triduum, the 3 days preceding Easter Sunday, Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, and Holy Saturday. I'm really excited this evening to be joined by Erricson Mapfumo. It's really great to have you, Erricson. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. How are you today? Are you well?
Yeah. I'm well, Chris. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Good. And so today with Ericson, we're going to be exploring. We last night with Eve, we were chatting about Holy Saturday, talking about the challenge of the vulnerability of sitting in the grief and doing nothing of Holy Saturday. But today we're exploring Good Friday with you. But before we dive into that, do you just want to tell us where are you joining us from this evening? Where are you kind of zooming in from, as it were, and what can you see out of your window?
I'm joining from. Sorry. I'm joining from Chapel Allerton in Leeds. I'm a curate at St. Martin's, Port Newton. Outside the window, I can see the cars and some houses. But it's good. It's good.
Good,
Yeah.
wonderful. And so
I'm
you're the
just
curate at St. Martin's over in Chapel Allerton.
yeah.
And as you were telling me before, you're married. You got two girls, and you're originally from Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And so, as the curate of St. Martin's, what sort of things do you get up to usually? What do you do in your day to day as curate?
I would say my day-to-day schedule is different depending with what's happening. But usually we've got a weekly Eucharist on Wednesdays, and then Monday is usually my day off.
Good to have a day off.
Day off, and I'm involved in other things. But mostly, it's pre-COVID. It was systematically phoning the congregational members and obviously being involved with also our community kitchen and some of the people who come. So now they are coming on Wednesdays and Fridays. So sometimes it's actually being there. To talk to them and just offer them support, but also being in the community as well. I like walking about in the community, talking to people. That's what I enjoy doing. As I've been involved in a number of projects, especially the ones to do with the environment, so visiting schools as well. Yeah, so a number of things. Yeah,
nice and varied. So this week is Holy Week, the week preceding Easter, and tonight we're talking about Good Friday, a day full of emotions. But as we kick off, Ericson, can you tell us what actually happens on Good Friday?
A lot happens, I suppose, on Good Friday, depending with the traditions, different traditions. But for us, I suppose, as well as Christians, is that it's a time of recollection where we remember what happened at the journey of Jesus to the cross. Remember the crucifixion, and we rate that in different ways, especially in our congregation. We've got the adoration of the cross, and we also get involved in the stations of the cross. I think you might have come across them, where we actually reflect on that journey as Jesus was going to the cross. So it is a time of sorrow, and and we try to include that in our liturgy. So there's no Eucharist, but we can have communion from the reserved bread or the bread
and
that has
so
been poured for.
On Good Friday, I suppose we're remembering that first Good Friday, aren't we? We are kind of trying to transport ourselves back 2,000 years to live and to kind of feel the dust on our faces as Jesus kind of leaves, is sort of sent out by, is it Herod? Condemned to crucifixion. He's flogged. He's then got the crossbar of the cross put on his back, and he has to walk. Is it that he walks the Via Doloroso? He falls. I'm trying to remember the stations of the cross off the top of my head here. You might have to help.
And obviously he meets Simon of Cyrene, the person who helps him to carry the cross, and meets the women of Jerusalem, and falls 3 times, and all those kind of different stations. So we reflect on those and sort of like imagine ourselves being with him and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And sitting at the foot of the cross is incredibly powerful. It's one of the things, just spending silence and time reflecting on the death of Jesus is an incredibly powerful and poignant moment. We call it Good Friday, but what's good about it?
I suppose there are different opinions, but I would say, as I was sort of like reflecting on this, mostly it's called good because of actually the end result, because of what happens. This is the process. Obviously, Jesus is suffering, but he's going to rise again, and is paying the price for our sins. But actually, the day itself, obviously, it's a day of sorrow because he's going through pain. But I suppose at the end of the day, it was good that he paid the price for our sins. So that's what's good about it. And I suppose also there have been people debating whether we should be actually calling it good, because some are saying obviously that good is different. It doesn't necessarily mean good, but it's God's sort of, instead of good, we replace with God's Friday, something like that. But I think my belief obviously is that it's good because we understand that because of what happened, Jesus dying and being crucified, that was the sort of like the journey that he took to save us. So I think it's good if we look at it that way.
I suppose on the day itself, that first Good Friday, it wouldn't be considered a Good Friday, but the effects, the victory that Jesus wins by his death, paying the price for our sin, winning a victory over evil and sickness and suffering and death, being that exemplar. There are a whole bunch of atonement theories, aren't there, that you can explore, taking the punishment that we deserved, dying in our place, all that kind of stuff. It was good because Jesus did all that for us in our place. It's good for us, and it's the defeat of sin and sickness and suffering, isn't it? Wonderful. And so what do you think is particularly comforting for you about Good Friday?
I suppose like as you are saying, is that idea of obviously knowing that this is the pain that obviously Jesus has to go through. And I suppose for some of us obviously coming from Southern Africa, I think it's the idea where sometimes because of our experience of suffering and pain, identifying with that Good Friday or that pain which Jesus went through is particularly empowering for us, in the sense that we realize that even though we're going through pain, there is light at the end of the tunnel, or good outcomes will result out of our suffering, as long as we, I suppose, believe in Jesus, but also if we continue having hope.
And I suppose it's not even just, hoping for, it's not just a promise for tomorrow, is it? It's knowing that Jesus has entered into the suffering with you in that moment of suffering. Yes, looking forward to hope for tomorrow, but also knowing that like Jesus sits and suffers with you. I would imagine that is incredibly comforting as well.
Yeah.
And that you know, that knowing that there has been no experience, no human experience Jesus hasn't felt, you know, to feel complete on, you know, on the cross he has, on that Good Friday, he says, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, my God, why have you forsaken me? He feels distant from God. He feels God forsaken, I suppose. And so knowing that even for those who feel God forsaken, that Jesus has entered into that, you know, whether the reality was that he was forsaken by God. You know, there's that line in the hymn, isn't there? The Father turned his face away. Did God really turn the face away? The Father really turned the face away from the Son? Probably not. But the emotion of the moment, I suppose, is kind of the important bit, isn't it?
Yeah. I suppose it's because obviously we know the end result. I suppose it would be a different story if we didn't know that what was going to happen. But that's the
I wonder, folks at home, if you've got any questions for Ericson about Good Friday that you want to post in the chat. I've got a few more to ask, but I would love to hear what you might have to say, everybody. If you've ever thought, like, why, you know, what is this thing about, you know, why the cross? Why did he have to die? All that kind of stuff. Stick it in the chat, and I'll put them to Ericson. So if you know, knowing that if there is hope on the horizon as we sit in our suffering, if that's the comfort, then what do you find challenging about Good Friday, Ericson?
I think what is challenging, particularly for me, I suppose it's one of the things that you've said. I think is, I suppose, mostly obviously when talking with other people, especially in Christian doctrine, is that idea of a God who dies. Sometimes it becomes it has been challenging for me, because obviously it has made me to have an understanding on who Jesus is, because the risen Christ is different from obviously Christ before he died, things like that. So even in my own life, on that to obviously, that when I sort of like tried to understand more deeply the differences between the risen Christ and actually the Christ before he's risen, that obviously it has made a difference in terms of actually my spirituality and how I relate with him, I suppose, because the risen Christ is also a judge.
What do you think the differences are between the kind of the pre-resurrection and post-resurrection Christ?
I think for me, mostly it's also realizing that the post-resurrection or the risen Christ is one who is also the judge and ruler. So besides, anyway, I suppose it's it becomes complicated, but I think is that idea of realizing that it's of course Jesus is a nice person and other things, and we can relate with him and other things like that, but also is actually God. That kind of thing.
I think we're losing you a little bit, Ericson. You're
it draws a different sort of like it draws on a different sort of like doctrinal issues, especially about the Trinity, because when he was man, obviously was he a lesser God, because he said the Father is than some things like that.
I think unfortunately you're breaking up a bit, Ericson. We're only getting about every second or third word. So
I think those kind of discussion are raised that's a moment at the cross. I think what for me personally, I think it has been trying to reflect.
Ericson, I'm only catching every second or third word, and I think most people at home are probably in a similar situation, not quite able to. I think the connection is a little bit poor, unfortunately. And I don't know if we're going to. Are you still with us, Ericson? I think our internet might have let us down. Well, I do hope that everything that Ericson has said up to the point has been helpful and interesting. It's always good to get another take on Good Friday. No, I don't think it's coming through. We might. Claire, I think looking at your the stats of your stream, things aren't looking very promising, unfortunately. But thank you so much for joining us this evening, Ericson. We might have to pull stumps a bit earlier there than we would have liked. You were getting in your flow and kind of considering the nature of the Trinity. Can God die? Which is a really, really interesting question. Okay. Can God die? And what does it mean if God does die? What happens to the nature of the Trinity if God dies? If Jesus, the Son of God, part of the Trinity, dies? Is the Trinity ripped? One thing we do know, though, is that Jesus is indelibly marked by his death. One thing we do know is that Jesus, in his resurrection, bears the marks of his crucifixion. He still has the wounds in his wrists and the hole in his side from the spear. And so we know that in heaven we have a wounded Jesus, someone in heaven who knows exactly what it is to suffer. And you're a bit better now, but you don't seem to be moving on your video.
It could be my network.
Yeah, I think it could be your network. I think I'm just trying to draw things to a close here, as it doesn't seem like our connection's doing very well. But that's okay. What you said that we could hear was really wonderful. So thank you so much this evening, Ericson. Do join us tomorrow evening, everyone, for our third conversation of the week with Thea College. The previous, a while back, curate in the wonderful parish of Wortley and Farnley. I'm really looking forward to chatting to her. She is the chaplain at Leeds. We really can't hear you, Ericson. Only every second or third word at the moment. Really sorry, but thank you so much, everybody, for joining in this evening. It's been really wonderful to chat to you all. Please do join us tomorrow as we round out the week of live stream conversations.